Welcome, everybody, to another installment coming to you from the Carport Compound Studio facility in sunny Uxbridge, Canada. My name is Simon Head. I'm the director of Subversives, the history of Lows to the Low. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And the big plan for this is that if I can show movies on here and monetize it, I don't need to sell it. That's the plan. So the more people that are involved with this, the more money we can make. I've only had a YouTube channel for 15 years, so I'm trying to make it grow. So today on the show, I have Pat Steward. Pat Steward is the drummer from Odds, as well as Bryan Adams. Pat, unfortunately, didn't really make it. It didn't really fit. But, I mean, he played at Live Aid in 1985, so he deserves to have a place in this. This interview was conducted on the 27th of September, 2021, right under a SkyTrain thing. It was sort of, obviously a lot about Ron's solo projects, not a lot about, like, same thing with Dave Genn. There's a lot of solo project talk, and which kind of got edited out of the film because it was about Lois the Low and not about Ron's solo projects. I want to let you know that you can still rent the movie on Apple TV. Apple TV is available in Canada, the United States, Ireland, the UK, and Australia. And if you don't have any of that stuff, then you can rent it on YouTube worldwide. And if you want to hold something in your hand, you can buy the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is available on Amazon worldwide. Just search it out and you'll find it there. Thank you for subscribing. Don't forget to tell your friends. Anybody who's a Lois the Low fan will enjoy this content because it's all long form. Without further ado, here's Pat Steward. And enjoy.
So, I did that, came home, and we went down to Mexico for 2 weeks or something. And so it's hard to, I have a hard time keeping track of it all. And if you're sharing it with somebody,
yeah.
and again, he might have done some track that I did and went, oh, I'm going to keep Jody's version,
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, Jody, he's funny.
He's drum kit. He's got that Vista-like drum kit.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I need these. It's in focus.
I know. Me too.
It's annoying.
Like, right now is worse than it was a month ago or something.
With a lot of meetings online and.
Yeah, just readings, just font. Like, I mean, everything's fine. Driving and sitting out here and looking at everything, it's the same as it ever was for me. It's just reading and looking at small font is like, forget it.
Yeah. So, real quick.
Okay.
So, first time you ever heard Lois and Low? First experience? Do you remember that?
No.
All right.
As to the earlier topic.
Yeah.
Not really. Like, we used to tour around in the 90s, and I know the name.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever shared any bills. I mean, it would have been awesome.
Yeah. So you basically came on the scene after Lois and Low long broken up, by the sounds of it. So they broke up basically in 1994, got back together in like 2001, and then Ron just kept doing solo projects, Lois and Low, and swapping.
Back and forth,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah.
maybe just talk a little about the first time you met Ron. What you enjoyed about his presence, songwriting and stuff.
Yeah, boy, we got together at the Revolution Studios in Toronto to make that record. What's the title?
Garden Songs.
Garden Song?
Yeah.
Is the album title?
I believe it's called Garden Songs, yeah.
Okay. Oh, songs, right. Luckily, we have editing facilities.
Oh, this is live. It's live, going right out to...
SkyTrain. I remember getting together there, and boy, and you know what actually stands out mostly, because it was just a power thing of like 2 days, I think, of recording songs. I flew to Toronto. We recorded songs for 2 days. You know, we would go for a bite and a beer after or something, and it would be late, go home and then do it again tomorrow, you know. But one afternoon we went for a walk. We went for a walk around the neighborhood just right by Revolution there, and I just remember he was a good guy. Like, I just met the guy, and he's important and legendary, and he was just a good guy. You know, we had good chats, but I don't think I have a lot of big nuggets of gold for you for this.
It's totally fine, because there is a constant comments about Ron and how his personality is warming. He
was warm and engaging, just, you know, the kind of person that I'm usually drawn to, like kind of people I like to hang out with, are the people like that, you know, my friends here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, can you describe what the music scene was in the early 90s? Like, basically 1990 to 1991, the world just went, boop, no more metal, only grunge. Can you maybe talk in your own words, your own thoughts?
Is that what it was? Because I was thinking of it as 92, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when Nevermind came out.
Yeah.
That seemed to change the whole.
It sure did, didn't it?
Yeah.
And you know what? For a number of years there, right around then, like 89 for a few 3 or 4 years, just with a couple of, there was this town, well, when there used to be, first of all, when there used to be live music, but there used to be a lot of clubs in this town, and depending on what style of music you played, you could do that. And it's always had a blues room, and there was a place in Vancouver called the Yale Hotel, and it's kind of like what's that place in Toronto? There's a couple blues places in Toronto. I don't know, Silver Dollar, Grossman's, not sure. But it was I played a lot of blues there for a while. So sometimes when I'm talking to friends and we get talking about early 90s or when Nirvana and blew up and the world changed and all that, I was like, and they're talking about other records, I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Like, I kind of went to this other world, and I just, you know, I think as a musician, you're always wanting to expand and learn more styles. And I kind of went into this real blues world for a while and loved it, provided you're playing with great guitar players, you know, and there's a lot of BS in the blues world. There can be, but I was fortunate to find a couple of people that I enjoyed their playing, and we would write songs and make a record and play. So we were kind of doing an alternative to this alternative thing that blew up in the world. But you know, right around that same time, 89 to 92, probably 88 to 91 or something, there was a couple clubs in town, and one, they had a thing called Metal Mondays, and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and all these guys from Seattle. A friend of mine was a sound man there, and he goes, man, you should come down sometime. There's some really cool bands that come in. And I just never took him seriously about it. I was like, well, I'm not really a metal guy, so I probably won't go do that. You know, and then I found out years later I could have seen Soundgarden in there, which would have been just a treat. And then the Town Pump, which is a key room. I bet you Ron and the Lowest guys played there at some point, because it was just so, that was the room when you were touring, you know, all the rooms that you play in, you know, if you played Lee's Palace or the Horseshoe in Toronto on your tour, likely when you got to Vancouver you played the Town Pump, you know.
That was Frank's room, Frank Whitepert's room.
Yeah, he probably ran it a lot, and he booked a lot of acts that are in Bob's Your Uncle, that was one of his bands. But there was these cats called the Red Hot Chili Peppers that would come and play here, and the stories about, I didn't catch those shows either. I was doing this other whole thing, and you know, they would come and play with the Sox, but man, the Pump was amazing. Every night of the week there was live music, and it was often stylistically just so opposite night to night.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. I saw Paul Westerberg there. By him, like in a band called Perfect.
Okay.
It was like me and 5 people, and I'm watching this legend.
Yeah.
4 other people.
What's happening? Why is there no one here?
Where is everybody?
How is this even happening? Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those down there.
So I guess you've kind of like grew up in the indie. Were you an indie rocker, indie rock type person, DIY, or were you your personal beliefs in like a major label versus independent music? Do you have any? Does it matter?
I've done both, you know.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I made I came to this town from Vancouver Island in '83, and within a year I had made a connection with and was recording and then touring with Bryan Adams, who was in those years, it was a major label, major, you know. But the band I was with before that, we were this kind of ska band influenced by my favorite thing was early Police and XTC. You know, it's just so into it, and then discovered. It's funny how you discover a band. They just ended the English Beat, you know, and the Specials, and just an element of all of those four bands, the writing of and the thick musicality of XTC. We were all on that page, and in this band I had, we were called Rubber Biscuit, and named after a song that was in the Blues Brothers movie. We just thought, that's something. And people were always telling us to change the name and whatever. And we were totally DIY, and we were, you know, handmade posters and all, and putting them up downtown and doing all that. And it was in '84. It was so hard to record. You know, a guy liked us, and then another guy had seen us, and he decided to be I'm going to mix you guys whenever I can. So he would mix us, and he was amazing. And he was friends with this guy, Ray McGuire, is a singer from Trooper. And I remember he heard us and took some cassette tapes home and did some editing with cassette tapes, which is amazing, and made new arrangements of our little songs. We went, okay, and so we were able to like borrow a 2-inch machine, and those things weigh 400 pounds, and we're hauling it up the stairs to our East Van house, putting it upstairs, and the band's down in the cold basement, and we recorded some songs on 2-inch. I don't even know where they went, but you know, and then as things kind of took off for me, I took a bit of a left turn there and made a connection with Bryan and did that for a while, and then after that went back to just DIYing it on your own as a guy playing music around town, you know.
Yeah. So
and then
there's no left or right of it. It's always like, for you, it doesn't matter. But the business side of it, like, sometimes you can get as equally ripped off by an independent than you can by a major, you know.
Yeah, you know, there's people making choices in both camps, and sometimes they're good people, and sometimes they're people making bad choices. It doesn't matter. No, I mean, I have lots of friends who were way more kind of punk rock in that they only wanted to do this, you know. Like we were talking about some things and some people earlier today, and you know, they're just like, as soon as things start kind of maybe taking off for them, they're just like, they don't want any part of that. It's bullshit, you know, marketing or whatever. It's like, so it's such a weird thing. Or people used to always go, oh yeah, I liked them early on, but then they sold out. What is that? I always loved that one, because those are guys that would sit in a room, write songs, play shows, and tour, and then they do it again. Oh my God, the song accidentally connected with people. Because the guy's like, I just saw this guy getting beat up on the street or whatever he wrote about. And all of a sudden, people go, oh yeah, they suck. They sold out. They didn't sell out. They're the same guys. You know, so those people entertain me. But, you know, I was never hardcore either way, you know. It's just sort of like, I play music for a living. So sometimes you're working with someone who's Frank Whitebird, and another time you're working with someone who's Kim Cook, and he's got a record label, you know. And you're making some songs with Ron Hawkins.
Amazing. So there never was a fear of selling out. Like, you know, there was never like this, because I know the Low, in their early days, would constantly turn things down, like, for the fact that they would feel like they're selling out. But when the reason they're actually kind of successful in this very cult manner is because they did all these things. So, I mean, you can't determine or dictate what your career path is, but sort of describe maybe the fact of just saying no too much, how that can affect your career, or like, you know, you kind of
Sorry, how what affects it? The train.
Yeah, the train. Shut up, train. Just sort of a, because you did talk about, you play music for a living, you're going to play with people who are, can you put more into that about making choices in your career that would sometimes be a bad decision, but then turns out to be a great decision? Like, is there anything you can sort of add to that?
Like, oh yeah, like how people do that,
Yeah.
or shit. No, I feel like we've kind of lost the plot a little bit, or I've lost the plot.
Well, no, the big question is the fact that if someone says, I'm not selling out,
Yeah.
I'm sticking to my guns, sometimes that can have a negative effect to the artist.
Yeah.
Because they're difficult, they say no too much. But,
Man, there were things, we were offered things in the odds in the 90s that were like seemingly really uncool to do. Like in hindsight, we sort of look back at it and go, we probably should have taken that Molson money. Like we were like, fuck Molson,
Yeah.
It was like, that was the thing. There was a beer and oh gosh, I've forgotten the name of it now, but they were kind of alluded to one of our song titles, and they wanted to give us, and it was a stupid amount of money. It was like, hey, we want to give you guys 60 grand, right? I'm like, okay, well, let's do the math on that one. The pragmatic guy in our band, and it's like, by the time we pay off the lawyer, and we got to pay off all these people, there's going to be like, a few grand or something. There's going to be a little bit, and it sort of all broke down to it wasn't really a lot, and how did you want to be seen? Because I came into the odds and it was already going, and it was super DIY from the beginning, and then it made a connection, and a major decided to sign them. So that's how that goes. But in the 90s, all these bands that we've been talking about, they're bands that kind of came from that way, but they signed to a major. Hey, if they really, really felt the way that apparently they are felt or whatever, then why would you sign with a major label? There's always an argument, right? So, but you want your music to get out there, and you want to be able to tour. They're kind of like bad bank loans, with a real high interest rate. But it's like, and then sometimes, and it happened to us, where the labels go, okay, we're losing money. Who's losing? Let's chop all these artists off the label. Okay, fine. So now we're free agent, which is what happened to the odds with BMG, and you're a free agent and you don't owe 500 grand, which would happen from recouping record sales. At a horrible thing of, we pay back $1 for every record, towards 500 grand. So it's like, still be paying that off today. So, there were some things, and that was sort of the time, like the 80s, 90s. Like if you were a type of mainstream band, and that mainstream rock radio, Sony or Warner Canada or something, you might do the Export A. That was the other one. You could do the Export A tour bus, and guys that I know that toured in bands or worked for artists, and they were all smokers. They were so happy, and we were like, I went on their bus one night, like, it fuck stinks in here, man. I can't even be on here. And it wasn't really, it was an old crappy bus, and they painted Export A on the side, but it was, a thing they were doing, like putting money out there for artists to help both the artists maybe and the associating that artist name with their product. So
yeah, I did a tour with Treble Charger in a Molson Canadian bus, wrapped, and we're driving through East Van, and people are like, yeah!
What was it?
Molson Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Tour bus from
Yeah.
Joe Bamford's bus.
Yeah.
And it had the same thing, Molson Canadian.
Yeah.
And it was the one like the Village people used to use, because they had a marquee, and we had the Village people, and then it was like all these other bands
that had played on it, that had used it. Yeah. Interesting.
So I was going to ask a question about Low and Low, but because I don't want to have you surmise an answer, but there's a legacy that's sort of involved with this band and with Ron's songwriting. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what it's like, maybe what will the legacy of Low and Low or Ron Hawkins, what will that legacy be?
Well, Ron's got this, he's got a really nice voice, and he's got this thing that every once in a while, it's just sort of notes that he sings over a chord that made me think of Elvis Costello. a little bit of that, and that's awesome. That's nothing wrong with that. And then the other thing is there's some of the stuff. A few days ago, I just scrolled through a little bit of one of the earlier records because we were talking, and I was like, I know there's songs on there that are like, I'll hear it and I go, oh, that's them, because I really didn't. I knew the name, but I didn't know them, and sadly we didn't end up on some bills, or we may have been on bills, but sometimes you're like, we're gonna leave because we got a 10-hour drive. You know, you play your 3 o'clock set and you're out. But there's a sound with some of those records, and you said Treble Charger too. That early record of theirs, is that 94?
Which one?
Lowest of the Low.
It's 91, and then the second record was 94.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's a sound though that to me is like, it kind of makes me go, oh yeah, early 90s Toronto. There's a sound. And it might have been because it was recorded in Hamilton, or there's a thing being a Westie, like lots of friends in Hamilton, and it's like there's a thing there, man. It's aggressive, and it's super raw, and lots of great stuff for years has come from there. So when I hear certain recordings from those early 90s, you know, I fondly remember all the times playing and touring and hanging around in Toronto. It's a great city. I love to go out there and hang out. Like when you're touring, and you're promoting a record or something, you're always out there, and you got a couple of days that you're on, and you got a day or two off, and you can go see a band and hear some sounds, and you know. So it reminds me of that.
And there's a distinct difference between Vancouver's indie rock scene and Toronto's indie rock scene. Like there's a definition. I believe Vancouver's more mellow, less competitive. It feels that way to me as an outsider, as an indie.
You know what? I bet you have a better finger on the pulse of that than I do. But I wouldn't deny that, because the West Coast is that. It is kind of like, if you think of 5440, and then the Headstones or some other acts from you know, same time period, different towns, right? 5440 are great friends of ours, and they have a ton of great songs. But it might be more, even when they're rocking, it's kind of a mellower kind of a thing. It's a West Coast thing. I totally get it. Whereas the other thing to me, you know, say Headstones, or I was just thinking of a sound, right? It's almost like Detroit. It's more like that, right? Yeah. And that's sort of the difference between our two cities. And so if the indie scene, I would say it's probably a lot like that too, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's great. Did we talk about Garden Songs? Did we mention? I forget now.
Not really. I just said, you know, I showed up in the studio. It was such a whirlwind. I remember being there and enjoying it, and we were at that great studio, and I just met him, and like I said earlier, I don't even know. I don't look at any titles and go, oh, I remember that title. Yeah. You know, you go in, somebody plays you their demo, and you get a piece of paper and you scribble out an arrangement. That's what I do, and I should have kept it. You know, I sort of next song. You do like 10 songs in 2 days, and then boom, I'm flying out there, and you're gone the next day. So it was all pretty quick, but there was nothing stood out as, oh God, there was that horrible moment. Yeah. There was none of that. It was all good. Yeah, he was just a gracious, good guy to hang with. And like I said, I remember going for a walk after, and we probably were walking down and we went to some dinner place or something, you know. Yeah. And you know, he's a family guy. I think he's got a couple of kids, and yeah. And because there was a phone call about something, organizing kids' school, recording, you know, that part of life.
Yeah. And it's sort of with Ron, he's managed to separate them into compartments and pull them out how he wants. He wants to do a low solo, he pulls that out of it, you know, and does that thing, puts it back. Solo project, puts it away. Family, like he has this
Like
really,
compartmentalizing.
yeah, putting it in like, and not having to like life get in the way of his family, the low getting in the way of the solo project. It all works independently.
That's good. That's some smart work.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I just sort of have like there's stuff going on, and then this one pokes out a little bit more than that one right now, and you know, there's always
Hammer, like, whoa, where were they?
whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole, yeah.
There you go. Or in Canada, beaver bash.
That's yeah. I mean, I think that's it, man. Like,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, like.
Like I said, I don't think I'm necessarily. I appreciate that
Listen, man,
that we got to do this.
I really appreciate like just me.